Thank you for having invited me to speak this evening for you. Normally I'm on stage to sing and I'm more comfortable in that position, but hopefully standing up and talking goes smoothly as well, we'll see. So as many of you know, as the introduction stated and as an email you got, I think had some brief background of mine. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My family has a very strong music background in the sense that my father actually started the organization in Los Angeles in the early 1980s, which is still there today and still brings artists to the US to perform around California. My mother is a music teacher in Los Angeles, still teaching today. She was my first teacher before I continued with KSK Mama and then subsequently with Sanjay Subramaniam. And she had her training when she was in India and then established a music school in Los Angeles. I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three boys in the family. My oldest brother is a flute disciple of Dr. N. Ramani, and my other brother Nirmal is a Mridangam student of Umayapuram Shivaraman. So when I was born into a completely musical household. I mean, that's quite the understatement. I had two brothers who were practicing and going for classes and going to India already. I had a father organizing concerts. We had some of the senior-most musicians of the 80s and 90s coming in and out of our house every week. People like Maharajapuram Santanam, D.K. Jayaraman, and the list would go on from there. Of course, at that young age, I didn't know the greatness of these musicians, but looking back, I realized that I interacted with some of these great artists at a young age. On top of which, my mother was giving music classes every day. And that was probably where I had the most exposure to music on a daily basis. From the age of 2, 3, I was in her lap and she was giving classes. And probably when I was around 3 or 4, I was humming along with the students in her class, something that she was teaching them. Some small composition, something like a Geetam, one of the first compositions you learn. And so my parents thought, okay, maybe we can start to teach him a little bit, since he seems to get a knack, and I was very interested at that age, just sort of listening and humming along and showing some interest in those classes. And I think, so my mom started, basic lessons at that age, nothing too serious. A 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you can't expect to really come and be serious or sit down. So whatever they could do, they would just have me learn and come for class. Probably when I was about 6 or 7 years old, we had a visiting artist, Sri T.R. Subramaniam, who came home and stayed with us for 3-4 days. And I guess after he spent some time with me, he realized that I kept on humming some song over and over. That song was Manavyala Kimchara. And he asked my mother, did you teach him this song? He's just keeps on humming that song over and over. I've been hearing him for the last 2 days. And she goes, no, I'm teaching my other students. The older students are learning that in class right now. He's been hearing it. So he must have picked up bits and pieces. So he was quite impressed and told my mother to get more serious about my training and not to just let it be a casual thing. He said, no, I think I see something, be a little more serious and teach him more. And so from then, my parents got a little bit more serious about my training and tried to get me more involved and to learn, not just to be listening in class. So a funny story, I kept learning, and I would sing for the occasional Tyagaraja Aradhana, the Muthuswami Dikshidhar Jayanti, celebrate all of those things over there. And I would prepare for those. When I was in 6th grade, I was 11 years old, and I remember I had to sell chocolates for a school fundraiser. So I was going from concert to concert with this box of Hershey bars or something, and asking all of the family friends, will you buy an overpriced chocolate bar so that I can take it to school and say that I sold 100 bars and then we get some prize for that. The usual, sort of scam that they get these kids to go and sell stuff for them. I was doing that, and after a house concert in somebody's place, one of the other members of the community said, I'll buy 2 bars from you, but you have to promise me something. So I said, what? He said, in 6 months I want you to give a house concert in my house. I've agreed to host a concert. You have some time to prepare. You have at least a few months. I don't remember if it was exactly 6 months, but there was some time. He said, you have time to prepare. I want you to do a house concert. And I just looked at him like, okay, you don't have to buy the candy bar. It's fine. I'll get somebody else. That's a crazy thing. At that age, I was 11 years old. I thought he was crazy. Then he spoke to my parents and said, I'm very serious. I really think that if you put the idea in his head and you have to push him, that maybe he can do it. You have some time to prepare. So it wasn't exactly an Arangetram in the sense that we didn't, go out and have a big thing and rent a hall. He just said, I want you to sing a concert, train for that. And so my parents said okay, and I actually finally agreed, and I said okay, maybe again not really realizing what I was committing to at that time. My parents just sort of said, I think you can do it, and we'll train you. And there was people around, my brothers, you know, people to help me with different aspects of what, you know, giving a concert is. So in those few months, as I trained harder and harder for that, I think that my interest also grew. And the concert went, and you know, I sang in that person's house, and he was happy, and everything went. That happened in, I think, June. And my parents by then already were brainstorming without telling me that they wanted me to come to India and learn music. And I think they had already made some plans. You know, they had spoken to people here, such as Ramani sir, Flute Ramani, about me getting some advanced training. And by that age, I also had I was getting to the point that I wouldn't pay attention in class with my mother anymore. You know, you can only learn from somebody that close for so long. I would come to class for 10 minutes and then I'll leave and go up to my room, or I'll go and watch TV in the next room. And I was just the worst student. And when other kids were coming for class, I would come and sit in the back. And if they couldn't sing anything, I used to like to come and, you know, chime in and sing it just to show that I could do it. But if I actually had to sing something, I was nowhere to be found. So I was one of those kind of kids. My dad used to get furious because he saw all these other kids coming for class regularly, but somebody living in the house wasn't getting class, and so he would tell my mom, and my mom would say, you know, he doesn't sit down. I call him for class, he only goes outside, and how can I chase him? So they both realized, okay, it's time to send him to somebody else. This isn't working. So that year is when I started learning from Calcutta K.S. Krishnamurti. I remember that my parents basically said, we want you, what do you think about going to Madras for 1 year and learning music? And I thought, moving to Madras, you know, at that age, and I just thought, you know, why would I want to do that? Then they said, you won't have to go to school for 1 year, and I said, yeah, let's do this, sounds good to me. So I moved to Madras, I didn't go to school, and on the flip side, I had to go to class 2-3 times a week, but it was okay, I was happy with that. And when I first started learning from KSK Mama, I didn't realize his level of seniority. You know, he was only teaching artists at the level of my current guru Sanjay Subramaniam, people like Unni Krishnan, Sudha Raghunathan. He had, you know, the top of the top musicians were coming to him, and he agreed to teach me because we approached him with Ramani sir, who they were very close, and he told him, this family is close to me, you have to teach this boy as a personal favor. So he took me on, and I think it was only after a few months when every now and then I would go for class and Sanjay would be leaving, or I'd go for class and I'd finish and Unni was waiting in the living room, that I realized, okay, I think this teacher is a big deal. I don't know what's happening here, but this is a big guy. So then I also started to take it a little more seriously, and that year was definitely life-changing for me. You know, Mama exposed me to so many new songs, things like Manodharma, you know, the way that we sing, improvisation in concerts. All of those things really, you know, I had been trained for that small house concert, but nothing the way that, you know, he kind of really opened up my mind. And that's also the year that I kind of became an obsessive fan of Sanjay Subramaniam, who was learning from KSK Mama at the time. You know, playing tapes and recordings and going to every concert, sitting in the front row and being very, very, you know, borderline like a stalker. But, you know, I was just this little kid who was very, very enthusiastic. So I got a lot of exposure that year. And subsequently, I was coming over the summer vacations. I continued with KSK Mama for a couple more years. He passed away in 1999, which is when I wanted to learn from Sanjay. And I remember Sanjay said, why do you want to learn from me? Learn from somebody so great like KSK Mama, you should go to somebody more senior. And then my parents just told him, and even Ramani sir again stepped in to help us and say, no, he won't. You know, it's a miracle that he paid attention and respected KSK Mama to come and sit and do whatever he said. We can't take that chance again. He won't pay attention with somebody else. He really likes you, so he'll sit down and he'll listen, and he's going to come to your concerts anyway because he's such a fan. So then Sanjay agreed to teach me, and of course it's been almost 15 years now actually, so from 99, 15, 16 years that I've been learning from him. And it was more of this every summer vacation. We didn't have Skype back then the way everybody learns over Skype now, and it was just 2-3 months. I'd come in the summer, I'd learn from him, I'd go back. And it was always a hobby, but a serious hobby. Then I remember I joined university in 2002. I joined in September, and I came to Madras that music season. So December I landed in Madras, And I come and see Sanjay and I say, yeah, I'm here for a couple, 2-3 weeks. When are you leaving? January 3rd or something. I said, cancel your return ticket. Why are you going back? Hey, what are you talking about? I said, what are you going to study? You're serious about music. You know, you can sing concerts if you're here. The only way you're going to make it in this field is if you're sitting here, not coming every 6 months for 1 month or 2 months. I thought he was crazy. I thought he was joking at first. Then his wife also said, yeah, what is this? Why did you even book a round trip? You should have just booked a one-way ticket and stayed here. And just cancel it now. Don't go back after the season. And then I told my dad they were saying this, and of course my dad chimed in and said, please only teach him music. We'll take care of all the other things. Don't tell him to drop out of college and all of that. Please keep all of your advice strictly to the music side. So then over the next 2-3 years, Sanjay kept saying it every time I would visit. He'd say, okay, how much longer, you know, what is this course you're doing? What is the point of this? Are you really going to study? You need to be singing. And there was a very valid point into what he was saying, because I also noticed that if I came in June, I would learn a lot. It was definitely beneficial. I'd go for class every day. I'd learn a lot of songs. I would learn so much from Sanjay. I would attend a lot of concerts. Maybe I would sing 1 concert in that 3 months. I would definitely, you know, you send these applications to the sabas with your bio and letter and this very horrible process. But I would do that. And then I would hope for a few concerts to come that December. And maybe 1 or 2 would come. I'd come and sing those concerts. And every time I would sing a concert, that sabha secretary and people involved there would say, where are you from? And I would say Los Angeles. And they would say, okay, but you'll be here every music season? And I said, yeah, I'm here every music season. I'm here every June. You know, even if you want to have a mid-year concert, I'll be here and I would love to perform. Fast forward to 6 months later, they would completely forget who I was. They don't remember who I am, you know, versus the next guy who came from San Jose or New Jersey or London or whatever. We were all just a big group of people who kept, your face would appear every December and then it would disappear every January. That was it. So it was really hard to make an impression no matter what I did. And that was the problem, was that I was coming and going. You really did have to be here. So then I decided by almost towards the end of my degree, 3rd or 4th year, I said, okay, I'm going to finish. I've done this much and I don't want to not finish my degree. I'll finish it and then I'm going to move to Madras to see what happens. It was a very big question mark. It was almost like coming on a one-way ticket. I didn't know how long I'd stay. I didn't know if I would stay forever. Am I going to just go for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? Big time question mark. I just came. And that's exactly what my guru wanted me to do. Sanjay said, just come. Don't think anything more other than that. Don't plan anything more other than that. Just come and just sing, practice. It'll all work out. So with his confidence, I moved to Madras. And I was learning a lot. I was practicing a lot. Not having school or college to have to go back to, or studies and all that, helped to free up a lot of time. And I really did. I do feel that the first few years that I had moved to India were very beneficial. I practiced quite a bit. I was attending concerts every day, good, bad, whatever the concert was, I would be there at least for half an hour to hear what was good or what was bad. You know, I was there. And in that way, it was something that I could never do sitting in the US. I never had that experience except for those few summer months. So that was definitely a different experience for me, and I loved it. 2-3 years into that, I realized that I didn't know. Actually, after about 1 or 2 years, my parents started asking me, okay, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, I'm enjoying it, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm enjoying whatever it is I'm doing. I'm singing occasionally, here's a concert here and there, I'm going for class more regularly, I'm practicing very regularly. It's different than what I was getting in the US. And then my dad, when we were driving somewhere, just very bluntly said, okay, but I think you better start your plan of coming back and either going to grad school or getting a job, because Carnatic music is not going to put food on the table. And then I was like, oh my God, okay, now I'm kind of, an already uphill battle is now getting even worse because my own parents are so worried and want me to move back. So I thought, okay, let me see. And I said, no, give me at least 1 more year, let's see what happens. So fast forward to year 3 and 4, I started to get the same doubts now. I said, oh my God, okay, there's so much politics involved. And some of you may be familiar with the Sabha circuit, the concert scene in Madras. Some of you may not be. But for such a small community and so few artists, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot of cutthroat competition and a lot of politics and game playing that happens, surprisingly, which I never realized until I moved here. I thought everything is so nice. You just go and you sing and it's all happy. Everybody's following their passion, and you get people to listen to your concerts. It wasn't so easy. So after about 3-4 years, I myself was getting very doubtful. And I thought, okay, this is probably not something that's gonna, I can't sustain the long term, and maybe I do need to think about moving back to the US. And I remember right at that time, a few things happened which were I suppose the timing was just right so that I would change my mind and kind of come back to being confident. One was, of course, my guru. Was from day one, he always told me, don't think about this. What are you doing? What are you working towards? Just keep going, and you're in the right direction, and it'll happen. Someday it'll click. You can't say when that'll be, and there's no formula for it either, but I can tell you're doing okay. So he had that confidence. That was one thing he reassured me. And I remember one day getting a call from Ramani Mama, Flute Ramani sir, and I've always been close to him from a young age, but not at that time. I wasn't visiting him so regularly, and he suddenly called me, and a phone rang, and somebody in the house said, you know, Ramani sir wants to talk to you. And I was like, what? Okay. And I said, okay, hello Mama, how are you? He had read an article in Shruti magazine about me, and he had spoken to a few people. He was calling me to tell me he was really proud of the decision that I made, and he said, and it was almost as if he knew it was on my mind without me telling him. He just said, I know all the ups and downs, I know all the politics of music, I've gone through everything, and I know you're going to go through it if you're not already, but I can see you're right on that cusp, you're right on the edge of something working for you. So keep at it, don't give up. Because I've seen so many musicians, my own students, who are so close, they have the talent, and yes, there is a bit of luck involved, you can't always say, but I see things happening for you, and I know because I know what's happening in the field. So that was very reassuring as well. I thought, okay, you know, that's very nice of him to call and say that, and these are people who I respect and know what they're talking about. You know, they know what they're talking about. And I even mentioned to my parents that, you know, I might move back. And my dad, of all people, said, no, I think you should stay a little while longer. So I was quite shocked. I said, where were you a couple of years ago when I, you know, wanted to stay and you were saying move back? And he said, no, I don't know, now it seems like things are better for you there, and just generally I feel like it's better, so I think you should definitely give it a go. And my mom just flat out said, no, I think at least 1 or 2 more years you have to stay there and just see what happens. And then my guru told me, give it 1 year, work really hard, and stop thinking about it being a 1-year thing or a 2-year thing. It's that 1 year sort of expiration date that's on your mind, and that's always like, it's always creeping up, and you always think about, is it enough to stay or is it not enough to stay? So just get that idea out of your mind and give it, you know, your 100%. And that year was really, I don't know, a turning point for me, I would say. I think concerts were coming more regularly. I got a few big opportunities. I heard people calling me saying that I've heard your name in the community, I want to come and listen. So I realized, okay, maybe my name is out there and there's some buzz. And that was a huge integral point for me that I said, okay, maybe I should stay. And I was very grateful that, you know, people like my guru, my parents, musicians like Ramani sir had that confidence, because I honestly was getting very discouraged. But they encouraged me to continue, and that was a crucial point for me. So fast forward another couple of years, I was singing more regularly in most of the sabhas. I had kind of tried to avoid the politics as much as possible, as much as you can, you know, but you kind of, few people very closely involved with sabhas here would know what I'm talking about. That some of it is unavoidable, but you try to maintain as much as you can, you know, all your relationships. And I kind of got past that, and I also got to the point where sabhas called me. I didn't have to send that dreaded bio and letter saying, can I please sing in your sabha? I would get a call from a sabha saying, are you free on such and such date? We'd like you to sing. That was a great feeling. You know, one season when I had 10 concerts that I didn't have to apply for, I knew, okay, this is now really getting strong. I'm doing well. You know, this is going in the right direction. I can really move forward with this. And in 2012, I went on my first US tour. The interesting thing about my US tour was that I'm from the US, but I was actually on tour as an Indian artist. So I had artists from Madras. I had organizers there sponsoring me, just as they would any other artist who was born and raised in Madras. Up till that point, every time I was in the US, I would get calls from random places saying, are you in the US? We'd like you to come and perform. And occasionally I would do it, but then I realized that I was being looked at only as an American artist. I was being looked at as somebody from Los Angeles who, okay, we're just going to fly him over to whatever it is, to Seattle or to Denver, Phoenix, do one concert and go back. And that was a good experience for some time, but I wasn't being considered or taken seriously as an Indian artist. So then that was also a big sort of milestone for me, that I came as an Indian artist, an Indian-based artist in 2012. And that was, I would say, a successful tour, because I learned a lot performing with senior artists that traveled with me from Madras on my first trip. I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from singing so many concerts in such a short time. You sing 20 to 30 concerts in like 2 months, 3 months. It's really packed in, so it's an amazing experience, learning experience as well. So that was really great for me, and I've also gone on a tour after that last year, and now the tours are coming, the concerts are coming, and it's solidified. As this is all the musical side, of course, that I've talked about now. Now comes the social side and the how does Chennai fare as a city versus living in Los Angeles my whole life. That was interesting as well. So that was kind of rocky. I would say that there was times when I felt very comfortable and times when I felt, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. And I would say two things. One is that the city itself has grown so much in the last 10, 15 years. You know, it's changed so much to the point where we have all the movies, all the English movies that I want to watch. We have coffee shops, we've got restaurants, we've got everything here that we have there that maybe I would do. And after a point you also stop wanting to be as social, as you get older. You don't think about having to go out every day like I did maybe in my college years. So that also kind of balanced that side out. And I realized one thing a few years ago. I think it was 2012, after I finished 2 months of touring, I wanted to spend time at home. So I finished the whole tour and I booked my travel such that I could spend 3 to 4 weeks in Los Angeles. At home, no concerts, thought I'll just relax. I think it was June or July by then. Not much happening in Madras, so I felt okay, I can afford to be away from Madras for another month. After about 5-6 days of recovering from the strenuous travel and all of that, I was so bored. Sitting in my own house in Los Angeles where I grew up, where I had friends, I just realized that my life had changed so much that I had in a way outgrown that place, that lifestyle. And my friends had jobs and they all lived in different scattered areas. It's not like we were all seeing each other at school or college on a daily basis anymore. And I was so bored. I didn't have the paper to open up the Hindu to see who was singing in Raga Sudha Hall or what festival is happening in Narada Gana Sabha or something, because like I said, I was also at a point that I was just going to any concert. If there's nothing to do, you could always catch a concert in the evening, at least for an hour here or something. I didn't have that. I knew then and there, that if the tour wasn't sort of a marker for me that I belong in Madras doing music, that was it for me. 1 week after I was done, I just said, I don't belong here anymore. I can only last a week. That means that really, like, my heart, my mind, everything is in Chennai now, which was a very weird feeling for me, because up till that point, I was always like, oh, when am I going to LA next? When do I get to go visit home next? And when do I get to go outside of India and go to some restaurant in Los Angeles that I grew up with? There's something, very stupid like that, basically. But that was a point when I realized, okay, I really belong in Madras. And no matter what I look at, if there are certain luxuries or certain things that we take for granted that maybe I don't have here or I didn't have, at the end of the day I realized that I couldn't replicate this music scene anywhere else. I couldn't get this exposure to music. I couldn't sing and practice and grow as a musician anywhere else except for being in Madras. And so even when I had friends who approached me and said, well, you have to be in India because you want to be a musician, but you think maybe Chennai is not, it's too extreme a city moving from Los Angeles. Places like Bombay and Bangalore are much more progressive and maybe more modern. But I realized that not only do you have to be in India, you really do have to be in Madras. And not only do you have to be in Madras, you have to be sitting in Mylapore to really make it happen. And that's where I have been, sitting in Mylapore since 2006. And I really think it makes a huge difference, my guru Sanjay also made a joke a few months back when we were just talking about how a lot of musicians move out of the city, after a point. He just said even to this day he feels that if you're not in Mylapore, you may as well be living in the Middle East or in the US, because if you're not in Mylapore, it all doesn't matter after that point. So in a way, it's very right. This is the way to really immerse yourself and just be within walking distance of the sabhas and this music scene, is to just sit here and let that happen. Last year in September, I got married to Radhe, who's a Bharatanatyam dancer, and so that more than solidified my presence in the city. I had a friend from college who, when I told him I'm getting married, I sent him the invitation and I emailed him, and he replied saying, he said, I knew you moved to Madras and I'm to India, and I know you said you moved there and that you're living there and it's permanent, you're not moving back, but I thought there was just like some small chance, like a 1% chance. I always held out that you might tell me you're moving back to Los Angeles and that we'll see you in the US, but you're getting married to somebody from India, now I lost all hope for you. And I said, yeah, that really convinced everybody. And so I think over time, with, you know, as the years went by, I was able to convince people that I'm not just an NRI. This dreaded tag of being the NRI musician who just comes and performs and goes back, or who just comes and maybe either goes and butters up a few Sabha secretaries or just passes them some cash and gets a concert and goes back. It's really hard to not fall into that category. You know, no matter what you do, everybody just thinks you're one of those. So unfortunately, it's very hard to work your way out of that and be taken seriously. I'm happy that after this many years, it seems to have happened, and I'm confident in the way my musical career has gone and the way my life has changed over the last several years. And now I'm singing regularly and touring regularly. And I suppose that's the background of my journey. And if you have any questions, you could ask now. Sorry? Yes, okay. Yeah, I was requested to sing a song, so I will do that.
என்றே புராண
அடைந்தார் என்றே புராணம் அறிந்து சொல்ல கேட்டோம். கோபால கிருஷ்ணன் பாடும் தில்லை அறிந்து சொல்ல கேட்டோம். கோபால கிருஷ்ணன் பாடும் தில்லை சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாக மதில்லை. சபாபதிக்கு வேறு தெய்வம் சமானமாக சமானமாக சமானமாக.
Yes, at concert, when do you decide on what songs you are going to sing? Do you decide that well in advance, or?
It depends on the concert, so for different concerts it's different. I usually have an idea that I want to sing maybe one song or two songs in that concert. Maybe because they're a newer song or I haven't sung it in a long time, so I consciously make the effort to sing it in that concert. Sometimes I may even make a full list from the Varnam all the way to the Mangalam. I might have 10 songs. Okay, I want to sing these in this order, and I would look at the time. But then just as often I'll get on stage and I have that idea and I just chuck it out the window because different things. Your mood changes, or you see the audience, maybe they want something else. Maybe you want to elaborate a different ragam. So it's different from concert to concert. I do try to have an idea. I very, very rarely just get on stage with a blank slate. More so because if you do that, you tend to just sing the same thing, because what comes in your mind at that moment may just be the same stuff you've been singing. If you are at home and you're practicing and maybe going through the notes or actually really racking your brain, then you tend to remember some older songs maybe that haven't been sung in a while, or you learn some new ones and you make a conscious effort to include one new one in every concert. So that's a way of making sure that your concerts and your song lists don't get stale. I would say that's one of the many things that I've learned from my Guru Sanjay sir, is to make sure that you're constantly singing different songs and learning new songs. So that's something that I've picked up over the years.